Hi, everyone. Welcome to Two Bald Guys Talking Safety. I'm Langdon DeMint.
And I'm Julian Taylor.
And welcome to our podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Two Bald Guys and a slightly less bald guy talking safety. My name's Julian Taylor, here in sunny East Yorkshire in the UK. And I'm joined by my shiny-headed pal from the US of A,
Langdon DeMint, in an overcast, slightly sunny day. But hot.
Okay.
It is hot.
And the third guy on the call today is actually an old pal, an old colleague of mine. I think he's had a haircut specially for the occasion.
Simon Raywood. I would have gone a bit closer, Julian, if I'm feeling left out.
Yeah.
There's always time.
The beard for today. Yeah. Simon, do you want to give a quick intro to who you are and a bit of background?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on, guys. I'm Simon Raywood. I'm the head of health and safety at MKM Building Supplies. I've been in health and safety for about 25 years now, something like that. I know I don't look old enough, but I have, believe me. And before that, I was a forklift truck driver back in the day. But I've jumped around various businesses since then. But I think that original background has given me quite a good grounding in terms of hazard and certainly employee perceptions of risk as well around safety. So, but in my current role, I joined MKM 6 years ago, and I was the first internal health and safety person that they'd had. Before that, they'd used external consultants. So it's the last 6 years has been interesting because they didn't have anybody internal before me, just used external consultants. So it was a bit of a blank canvas, So it was quite an attractive role for me to build a safety management system from the ground up. You don't often get that opportunity, certainly in a business the size of MKM. So yeah, it's and we've come on quite a journey since then.
So for people who don't know it, Simon, obviously MKM's not quite so well known in Nashville. Tell us a bit more about how sort of what size of company they are, what they do.
So MKM are a building supplies company, so bricks and blocks and timber, cement, all that good stuff. So we supply tradesmen, builders with the materials they need. It's quite a relatively young business, really. So about 29 years old, something like that, I think. A local guy, David Kilburn, founded the business. Yeah, it was 95, I think, when the business was founded, just with one branch in Hull in Yorkshire. And since then, we've grown over the last 29 years to become, probably the biggest independent builders merchant in the UK now. We've got 128 branches across the UK, right from the top of Scotland down to the southeast, southwest. So all over the place. We've currently got about 3,000 employees across the branch network. So yeah, that's
so lots of people to influence and lots of ground to cover then.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, it's the first time I'd worked in a builder's merchant as well, and it's quite a unique sort of industry, really. Certainly in terms of site traffic management, because it's one of the few industries that allow customers into the yard and into the warehouse, because builders, they want to touch the products, they want to look at the timber, pick the straight bits, they want to actually see what they're buying. And often they want to load their own vans themselves. And the issue with that is then we're actually bringing them into the higher risk areas of the site. So from a safety management perspective, that presents all sorts of interesting challenges, shall we say?
I bet it does. Yeah. I suppose sort of coming in from sort of scratch like that, Simon, what were sort of some of the early challenges that you faced? What were some of the things that you had to overcome to start to change things at MKM?
I think, you probably get this in a lot of businesses, certainly maybe smaller independent type businesses where, they've not had a great deal of sort of advice and support around health and safety. So it was quite old school in terms of the approach to health and safety. We've got a first aid kit and we've got an accident book and a very reactive sort of approach to health and safety, and some branches were better than others, but there were one or two that was, well behind the curve in terms of where we needed them to be around health and safety. And you come across this attitude, certainly with a lot of older, well-established employees, is that, well, I've done it this way for 25 years and I've never had an accident, and why should I change, And so I came across a lot of those kind of attitudes, but thankfully, I think because of my approach to health and safety and because I started on the shop floor, I could talk the talk a little bit, and see things from their point of view and almost relate to the guys at the sharp end in terms of health and safety. And, I could have that conversation and say, well, I've been where you are. I used to drive a forklift truck. I know that the challenges that you face day to day, you've still got a job to do, but, I'm here to sort of help you do it safely, to send you home to your family at the end of the day, so, and I think that, I had some quick wins with that kind of approach to it, rather than coming in with a big stick and saying, this is the way to do it, and bombarding them with documentation and because I think if you go down that road, you can quickly lose people, and you only get, you only get one chance at a first. You don't get a second chance at a first impression or something like that, isn't it? Yeah,
it's something like that. Yeah, we know what you mean. Yeah,
yeah. So I think it was challenging early on, certainly.
Did you find? So I guess before I took my first job out of my master's, I had a job offer. Similarly, it was I was going to be their first internal health and safety professional. It was a global company, Japanese, working with steering systems, kind of steering columns for vehicles. And I ended up not choosing it. Now, valid, I was, young right out of my master's. So there was a fear, obviously, of everything was going to ride on me to a certain extent. And they were still very, I'll say, immature in what they were wanting to do. They began making strides, but have you found for MKM, for the most part, since they'd been doing consulting, been managing health and safety a little bit, have you found it everyone's very receptive or of doing things differently from an EHS perspective?
No, there was quite a bit of resistance early on, I think, and I think it was a very sort of paper-based management system. That they brought consultants in who'd given them some really nice looking folders full of procedures and risk assessments and policies and all that good stuff, that just went on the shelf and gathered dust until the audit the following year, so that was literally the management system, and one of the first things that I wanted to do was bring in a health and safety software package to, because I'd used them in previous businesses quite successfully. And certainly when you've got lots of remote locations, it's a very good way to give you visibility of what's going on, or what isn't going on, as the case may be, so that was one of the first things that I did. And again, I had quite a bit of resistance to that early on. Some branches were pretty good at filling out the blank forms and filing them away, and some of them were very reluctant to let go of that. Well, I like my documentation. I like my pieces of paper. I like to go around with my clipboard and tick the boxes. And, and there's one or two managers at the time, I remember saying to them, look, give it a try. I says, if you don't like it within 6 months, I'll come back and I'll unplug the thing myself and you can go back to your pieces of paper. It was literally one of those, because they were adamant they weren't going to do it. So there was a little bit of a standoff in the early days, but I was pleased that when I went back a short time later, they were like, "Oh, this is great. I can see it now because it's doing a lot of the work for me. I'm not having to fill in pieces of paper. I can do a lot of it using tablets, using my phone, scanning things in, and it goes straight onto the system. I've got better visibility of when things are coming up for renewal or refresher training's due, and I get reminders of when things due as well. So I'm not having to, I need to check the health and safety folder. You're not relying on it's actually the system's prompting you and saying, look, this guy's forklift refresher training is due next week, or whatever it might be. This piece of equipment needs servicing, your racking system needs inspecting, whatever it might be. It gives you that to-do list, because these guys are busy people as well, and I think as safety professionals, we've got to be conscious of the fact that the guys in the sales and the operations, they make money for the business. They pay our wages, they pay our bonuses. We've got to help them be as successful as we can be. And often I think health and safety professionals are perceived as blockers to that. And rather than facilitators, and I think that's why we often get a bad reputation, and there's this perception of health and safety is getting in the way, when actually, if you get it right, it can be quite the opposite. It can make the processes more effective. It can make the operations slicker. It can reduce downtime. It can, but often, like you said, the perception is that we slow things down, So I think I've worked hard to try and dispel those myths. I think, throughout my career.
I think you used the term fun police, didn't you?
Have you? Yeah, I've heard. Yeah, mood hoovers. I've heard all sorts of. Been called all sorts of things, and but Julian, I always counter that with the old "danger never sleeps." Remember that, guys?
Yeah.
In fact, places I've worked, they've actually had T-shirts printed for me. Here at MKM, I had a mug for my birthday with "Danger Never Sleeps" put on it because I use it that often. And in fact, I went to an MKM branch a couple of years ago, and I just threw that out there. They were saying, "Oh, health and safety, the fun police are here," and all that, And I hit them with the guys, just remember, danger never sleeps. And actually, a couple of days later, they sent me a picture of all the guys in the high vis, and they'd actually had it printed professionally on the high vis vests. Danger never sleeps, But I think, just bringing a bit of fun into it as well, because hopefully you can have a laugh about it, but hopefully that message sticks, And
I think you made a really good point earlier about actually, two things, Simon, which is, first of all, can we make it easier for people to do their jobs? And once people start to see that actually we can do, people start to buy into it. And the other thing is, we talk about the impact on the business. So how can safety, rather than being seen as this negative thing all the time, how can it be seen to have a positive impact on business performance? So actually, when you look at it, it's not just about incidents and negativity. Actually, if you're good at safety, and I'm interested to hear from an MKM perspective, in a lot of businesses, it can actually help to win business, can't it?
Absolutely.
A lot of contracts have got elements in them around that whole piece around talk to us about your safety record.
Absolutely. And we shout about that, especially with social media as well now. It's so powerful, and I think one of the reasons I'm here today is because of some of the posts that you saw that I'd shared, on LinkedIn, and I think that is, and we always try to share, certainly on social media, the positive aspects of health and safety, but we also do that internally as well, because often, again, health and safety is you're always pulling people up for doing things the wrong way. You're always sort of criticizing methods of work, or it's perceived that way. You're always sort of, I don't know, recommending disciplinary action where people have not followed procedures, and and my whole approach is throughout the years has always been more carrot than stick. because I think people respond better to, rewarding good behaviours, identifying positive behaviours, and rather than criticising people all the time, I think you get the best out of people that way. And occasionally you do have to sort of come down hard on people if they're not following the rules, and we're expected to do that, because we've got a duty of care to everybody. But that's not my default position, and I don't think that should be any health and safety's default position, to just find fault and then criticise and take action, punitive action. I think you get far more success, and certainly I have, from praising good behaviour, rewarding good behaviour, flagging good behaviour, shouting about it, sharing it with other branches. Look at what this branch has done. Isn't this great? Look at the positive results that they've had on site, and I think by doing that, the culture gradually, you can spin it round, and you can see health and safety being perceived in a more positive way, and some of the stuff that, I'm going to be talking to you about, this Go Home Safe campaign, is all around that. It's promoting the positive rather than penalising the negative.
Talk to us about Go Home Safe then, Simon.
Well, I think, because I was from the shop floor, I was well aware that health and safety gets this negative reputation sometimes, especially from the frontline workers, the guys who are usually the most at risk and usually have the most accidents. They're the ones that often have this negative perception of health and safety. So with this in mind, I always wanted to approach health and safety in a less calculative way, a bit more proactive, not just overload managers and employees with loads of documents that protect the business, because everybody's afraid of litigation, but actually try and get into people's heads and get them to maybe change behaviours and work in a safer way. And so I wanted a message that would kind of resonate with people. And I wanted something around, because I'd seen branded safety campaigns at other organisations. This is nothing new, as you guys know, but I was trying to think of some way of branding our approach to health and safety. And I saw one of these in the UK. We've got these signs up at roadworks sometimes when they're doing roadworks on the motorway, highway for our friends across the pond. They have these signs up showing children on, maybe a child in a high-vis vest or with a hard hat on, saying, please be careful, through the roadworks because my dad works here, or something like, some message like that, and I thought, what, that's quite powerful, because I think it does, things like that do make you change your behaviours. You see speed limit signs all the time, and, we're very good at ignoring those. It almost becomes like wallpaper, but I think certainly the first time you see something a little bit different like that, I thought, that's quite powerful, that, because it's relating it to home life and your life outside work and the impact that maybe an accident can have on families and all that, So I thought that's really clever, I've seen the other ones sometimes where they have like 11 miles an hour instead of 10, and you kind of go, what, 11 miles, just a little bit, something a little bit different, rather than 5 miles an hour, 10 miles an hour, 20 miles, something like 17 miles an hour. You're like, what? 17? Why? But it makes you think about it, doesn't it? So I wanted to do something like that. So anyway, we came up with the Go Home Safe campaign. And so we that was going to be our brand going forward. So we designed a logo, we put it on all our high-vis workwear. So all the MKM high-vis workwear has MKM on one side and Go Home Safe on the other. This is the logo that we came up with the hard hat on there, because we ask our lorry loader delivery drivers to wear hard hats. So that was the Go Home Safe logo. And my CEO, Kate Tinsley, and the founder, David Kilbin of MKM, really bought into this idea. And because they really liked that message and associated it with your family, we want you to go home safe at the end of the day. So they were up for producing a video. So we produced a video about why health and safety is important to MKM. They opened it up right at the start, sharing some of their personal views about health and safety. So again, it wasn't just me as the head of health and safety. They expect it to come from me, this message. But when it comes from the leaders in the business, and they're not just talking about sales and pushing sales and getting the product out there and all that kind of stuff that you'd kind of expect from a business leader, they were talking quite passionately about health and safety and how important it was to them that all their employees went home to the families in the same condition that they turned up for work in the morning. So that was really powerful. So we shared that with the business, and we use that as part of our induction process now going forward. And then we issued the Go Home Safe packs as well to all our branches. So I've got one here. So this is the box of goodies that we send out to our branches with we want you to go home safe at the end of the day sort of messages on there. And then in there's all sorts of goodies for the branch. We've got the Go Home Safe mugs.
I might come and get one of those off you, Simon.
Absolutely.
I need a new
We've
mug.
got the coasters, the mouse mat you've already seen.
Yep.
We've got the pens, and literally the box is full of stuff like this that we scatter around the branch just to try and drive that message home. Some stickers for the ladies and gents restrooms, that you are now looking at. So these go on the mirrors. You're now looking at the person responsible for health and safety on this site. And,
I like that idea.
A lot of this stuff's nothing new. I've pinched that from somewhere else, but I do think it's real powerful. So those stickers. We produced some golden rules for health and safety. So we kept them brief, sort of 5 golden rules around some of our key risk areas. So we've got these small little credit cards to hand out to staff. And then we got a pack of posters that's in the box as well. So we've got the golden rules on there, the golden rules for safety. And then for each of our high risk areas, like site traffic management, falls from height, slips, trips and falls, manual handling, we got a poster printed up. So this one's around the sort of site traffic, keeping your distance from moving vehicles. But we actually used MKM staff on these rather than glamorous looking models. We actually used, so there we've got Kyle Jackson at our Retford branch. And he, so each of the posters we did at a different branch. We've got one there, keep your feet on the ground, again using MKM staff. And again, I think this was quite powerful in terms of spreading the message in a positive way. We also produced some. So I'm not a fan of lots of documentation. I think keep it simple, keep those messages brief. So we produced these small handbooks, very visual, lots of pictures in there. Tried to keep the text to a minimum if we can. But we've also utilised latest technology in terms of putting QR codes in there. So we've got a QR for each of the sort of key things that we're asking staff to do. We've put a QR code in there.
Yeah.
So you zap the QR code with your phone and it takes you to a video, again, of an MKM employee doing that activity safely. So it's not me, it's not some model, it's not some actor. It's one of their peers doing the job that they do, but they're doing it in a safe way. So, and again, I think it's been positively received, that whole approach to health and safety, that we're not over egging it. People can see that we're not just doing it to sort of keep the business, litigation free. We're not just doing it to protect the senior managers. We're actually doing it because we really do want people to go home safe at the end of the day,
Yeah.
And hopefully that comes across in in all our messaging and all the documentation and the training that we do.
And I like it because for me, it's we joke. I talk about the word camaraderie a lot, but it's all going back to honestly that positive just discussion. So you're not the safety cop. So you're looking at the workers as powerful tools to harness. That when we have those communications, it's open. They understand why it matters because everybody's different, right? And a lot of organizations have quote unquote tougher workers than others who maybe get I'll say stuck in the way they're used to doing things, or they have their own operations. And then it's tough if you're always focusing on the negative or always kind of hitting on the head with a hammer and not making little thoughts of why it matters to an organization, then it doesn't promote that positive, which, it seems like you're doing and trying to do even more, every day. And to me, that's very reflective from organizations that I've worked with as well.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we did as well, we introduced an auditing process. So all our branches get audited twice a year. It's a scored audit, so they get a percentage score on the back of that. And I've always been aware of how competitive our branches are. Certainly in terms of sales and volumes and how much money the branch has made, and there's quite a bit of banter that goes on between branches, around which branch had the best year from a sales point of view, and I saw this quite early on, and I kind of wanted to harness that competitive spirit. So we publish an audit league table now, and you don't want to be Sheffield United, Julian's team, down at the bottom of the league. I thought I'd get them. You want to be the Man Cities and the Arsenals of this world. You want to be top of the league. So that has certainly helped. I get a lot more questions about when's the auditors come in and what can I do to make my branch better. And again, just harnessing the culture that's already there, that competitive culture between branches. I think it's tapping. Every business is different, but I saw that as a potential opportunity quite early on. I thought, these guys are really competitive. How can we make safety competitive for these guys? So and that has certainly helped as well. And then also MKM are really good at rewarding good sales performance. So every year we have an annual branch directors conference. They usually take us somewhere very nice, like Spain or Portugal, for a few days, which is good. And then they present awards for the best performing branches, the best new branch of the year, the most improved branch. And, there's 4 or 5 sales awards that they gave out, which were really well received. So I spoke to my CEO about doing something around health and safety. So 3 or 4 years ago, we introduced a health and safety award at the conference, and again, it's created a real competitive spirit around the branches. It's quite a prestigious award now, and it's quite sought after. And every, as well as the prestige of winning the health and safety award, every member of staff in that branch gets an additional £500 bonus. So it's well worth
winning. Yeah.
And obviously we shout about that as well. And what's been really positive as well over the last few years, so we've been running it, we've had three branches have won it so far. And every single one of those branches are really successful from a sales point of view as well. So, we could never be accused of, they're good at health and safety, but they're not very good at sales. Actually, it shows that the two things are not mutually exclusive. You can do both very successfully. You can be a successful sales organization and be really good at health and safety as well. And I think that was very pleasing that the branches that won, are very successful as well.
I think that's an interesting point, Simon. because I mean, if you watch Sidney Decker's safety movie, he makes that point really clearly that actually there's a direct correlation. So safer sites tend to be better rewarding, sort of better performing sites, and because they've got that culture that sort of leads to people wanting to do things well.
Absolutely. And I've seen that over the years. I'm sure you guys have too, that, you know, when you get a really good, strong manager, they're usually good at everything. You know, they run the branches, the site is really well run, whether that be sales, operations, quality, health and safety, you know, staff engagement, whatever it is, the good managers just seem to, you know, be really good at everything, you know, and we've seen that. And, you know, in fact, I visited a branch this week, and they've come on leaps and bounds. The branch itself is only 5 years old. It was brand new building, and they've been really successful right from day one in terms of sales. But the health and safety hasn't been brilliant. But they've actually employed a couple of people in the last sort of 18 months, a really strong administrator at the branch who looks after the software system, keeps on top of the records and the training and all that stuff. And then they've got a really strong yard supervisor as well, who looks after things at the sharp end and makes sure not only that the job's getting done correctly, it's getting done safely as well.
Yeah.
And those two people, I think, you know, the branch directors they've always cared about health and safety, but I think they've been that focused on building the sales side of the business that maybe, you know, not been as committed as they should have been on the health and safety side. But now they've got these two people in place, it just seems to have turned the branch around. You know, I saw massive improvement in the standards on site, and those guys were saying to me, right, we're going for the health and safety award now. You know, we're all on board with it. This is what we want to do. You know, can you come and visit us and tell us what we need to do differently to win that award? You know, and
you're just making me think of the Dundies in the office, but I think your awards sound like they're a level above the Dundies in the office. There's actually, people are wanting to win these, and
to be honest, we did have that fear early on that, you know, there's all these glamorous sales awards.
Yeah.
Is the health and safety award going to be perceived as kind of like the wooden spoon at school? You know, the Dundies. You know, the one that nobody wants to win. You win that one if you're not very good at everything else. You know, it's and we didn't want that, but actually that's not been the case. It is a sought after award now, which is great because it harnesses that competitive spirit amongst the branches.
One other thing I loved, Simon, as well. Talk to me about health and safety.
Yeah. So again, all part of this trying to keep health and, you know, it's a dry subject. You know, it's difficult.
Oh, we make it really dry and dull, don't we, Langdon? We're really good at that.
I didn't want to say it, but you know, it's hard to make it sexy, isn't it? You know,
occasionally,
particularly with us too. Yeah.
So, but we wanted to bring a bit of fun into it. So, you know, we've held 2 or 3 competitions now. So every year we usually do a competition. A couple of years ago we had a poster competition for employees' kids. So we asked the kids to design a health and safety poster. And again, we had some fantastic entries, and the winner, I don't have a copy with me now, but the winner was a 5-year-old daughter of one of the drivers who'd drawn a picture of his truck, his big bright yellow truck, and there was her and her dad stood next to the truck, and she's saying, "Dad, please come home safe tonight." And he was like, "Okay, of course I will." You know what I mean? And I don't know. So we got it made into a professional MKM safety poster, and we sent copies of the winning 3 entries. Actually, we got them printed professionally and sent them out to all branches again, just to try and reinforce that. You know, don't forget you've got a family who are expecting you home for dinner tonight, kind of thing. You know, so. That was quite powerful. And then the one you referred to there was elf and safety. So we did that at Christmas time, and the elf on a shelf that the young kids seem to love now, where the parents have to put the elf in some, doing naughty stuff overnight. So we tasked our branches with doing something similar around, elf and safety. And so they had to take a photograph of a safety related photograph of the elf doing something at their branch, and it was rare. We got some cracking entries. I think we got about 140 photographs.
Wow. Yeah.
I think there was nearly 100 branches participated, and there was about 140 entries, something like that, from across the branch network. So again, we picked the three winners. I think the winning one, there were two elves on the photograph. One was giving the other one CPR, and they had our defibrillator stood next to them. We have a defibrillator in every branch as well. So one elf was giving the other one CPR, and that was. And then there was another one where he was stood next to the caution wet floor sign in the showroom with a puddle of water. And I won't tell you what the elf was doing, but I think you can imagine what he was doing to make the floor wet. But
keep it clean. Yeah.
But that was quite a fun one, So there were lots of things like that, and again, I put that on LinkedIn around Christmas time, and I got tons of messages and comments about that, and a few people have said, "Do you mind if I pinch this idea for my company?" And a lot of health and safety professionals really liked it, and so I sent all the information out to a few ex-colleagues, and even people I didn't know said, "Oh, can you tell me how you did this? Because I'd really like to do it next Christmas within our organisation." So I don't know if I'll be getting any royalties for that, but
yeah, you should have copyrighted that one.
I doubt it.
Yep.
Do you know what though? I'm for health and safety. I think it's pinch with pride, as they say. Steal with pride. We all want the same thing. I sit on the Builders Merchant Federation Safety Forum. Sounds very glamorous, but
that's a mouthful. Yeah,
I know, absolutely. But it's an industry forum, so we're safety managers from other builders merchants. We meet maybe once a quarter and share best practice, share ideas, try and promote safety within the industry. And those guys are really, although all our businesses are competitors, from a sales point of view, from a safety point of view, everybody shares information, documentation, ideas. We have, separate splinter groups that look at specific risks, woodworking or site traffic, to come up with ideas.
You can't say splinter group and then go to woodworking immediately after, Simon, because that sounds like the ultimate pun.
I've worked in the builders merchant too long, haven't I?
Yeah.
I just come out with these gags without even knowing it.
Yeah. I love what you're saying though, because I've said this for a long time, which is health and safety is non-competitive. And that's what I love, is actually this whole thing of, we get it at user forums quite a lot where we get splinter groups, and they meet each other. They might be completely unrelated organizations, but they can learn from one another in terms of not just using software, but actually best practice around safety. How do you drive things like engagement? How do you get leadership on board? All of these key things you're talking about. It's not competitive, and people do want to share.
Absolutely.
Programs. I mean, that's the best thing, is you can always, because it's going to need to be tailored anyways, but you can always look and find an EHS program or a specific chemical management, something to help. And you're right. That's something I've found also. It's always, everyone is always very open because we understand it's a common goal. I mean, that's the best thing.
And the thing is as well, it's what I've found, I've worked in a few different organizations now, and it's usually the same problems everywhere that you go.
Yeah.
Even if it's a different industry, I've seen so many of the same recurring issues and themes within every organization, and so other health and safety professionals will be experiencing exactly the same thing. So, why reinvent the wheel, as they say? If somebody else has already gone through that pain and created a process, a document, a procedure, whatever it might be, then, why wouldn't you share that? because we're all facing the same challenges, I think.
I was going to ask Simon, you might notice that I completely sort of just skirted the fact that you made a pun about my football team as well earlier on. I kind of, just for the American listeners.
I thought the connection had gone down or something then.
No. Simon was referring to the fact that my team are the strongest team in the league because they've been holding everybody up all season because they were at the bottom. Boom. The thing I was going to say, I mean, my football team had very poor measures in terms of how did they measure success because there was very little. But in terms of you being a sort of your time at MKM.
Well, I think like a lot of organisations, we use accidents to measure, progress, measure success. Although it's a reactive measure, it is a good measure to see whether that you are improving. So we constantly monitoring accidents, and we've expanded as a business. We've more than doubled in size since I joined the business. So when I joined the business, we had 52 sites. We've now got 128 6 years later. So it's been quite a rapid growth, and so you've got to consider that growth when you're looking at your accidents. So we do the accident incidence rate rather than the cold numbers of accidents, because you've got to take into account the more employees, more branches, more activity equals more risk. But, I'm pleased to say that our accident rate has halved over that 6-year period. It's been a little bit of a roller coaster ride. It's gone up a bit and then it's come down a bit. But if you look at the trend line over 6 years, it's a gradual decline. So, we are heading in the right direction when it comes to accidents. Interestingly enough, the more minor accidents has gone up quite significantly. And I think one of the first things I said to MKM when I joined is, you do realise that your accident numbers are going to go up. And they were like, what? Why have we employed you? And I was like, well, actually, the number of accidents isn't going to go up, but the reporting of accidents hopefully is, because we were encouraging people to report absolutely everything. So the minor cuts and bumps and scrapes that maybe would have gone unnoticed before, we were encouraging employees to report all those, and that had a sort of an effect, certainly on those minor incidents. And that rate continues to grow along with near misses, so we really encouraged near miss reporting to try and flush out all those potential high risk incidents further down the line, So yes, accidents is one of the key measures. And again, that we've seen some real improvements there. Audit scores, so we've tracked those over the years, and the percentage score has gone up gradually. So accidents are going down and audits are going up. So the lines are kind of heading in the right direction, which is good. And claims, personal injury claims as well. We've seen a massive reduction, certainly in the insurance reserve. So the amount of money that the insurers set aside for potential claims, all the claims that are have been made against a company, and that has reduced significantly, so again, and I think that is hopefully a reflection of the improving health and safety culture, and the reduction in accidents and the reduction in claims as well, so that those measures are there. So that's how we track performance, monitoring, health and safety. And, I think it's getting the balance right. It's having those reactive measures, but also you want those proactive measures around audits and inspections and the amount of training that's going on around the business on health and safety. We use a lot of other measures that are a little bit more proactive than accidents. But I think, as well, it's just when you've been in health and safety for a while, you just get almost like a sixth sense around health and safety. When you walk onto a site, you know whether the culture's improved.
Yeah.
You can feel it in the air almost, can't you? It's weird and it's difficult. You can't measure that really. You can't. but you do. It's just the culture. It's just the way things happen on site, isn't it? That you know that things have improved, and that's really important as well.
What comes next then, Simon? What have you got any sort of plans to sort of keep driving this improvement?
Yeah, I'm really interested in what AI can do for health and safety. I think and technology as a whole. I think one of our main challenges is around workplace transport. I think I mentioned earlier an interaction between vehicles and pedestrians in the yard, and I'm really interested in the technology that's on a lot of cars nowadays. Around pedestrian sensors and things like that, and the more of that stuff that we can apply to some of the workplace vehicles, I think will reduce the risk of certainly a serious accident significantly. So I've been exploring some of that, because that is our biggest risk. I think that's the one that gives me and colleagues within our industry the most sleepless nights, is around that forklift pedestrian vehicle interaction. It's so anything that we can do to try and reduce the risk around that. And QR codes that we talked about, things like that make it easier. Everybody lives on these things nowadays, don't they? We live our lives on here. So again, how can we harness technology to do those walk around checks, to take photographs of hazards, to scan QR codes that take us to an accident report, for example, to report a near miss, or I'm really keen to sort of explore some of that technology that might be out there to reduce the risk of an accident. So I think that's certainly what's next. I mean, we'll keep trying to come up with new ideas around this go home safe. I don't think that'll ever go away, because I think that works, that approach to health and safety. But I think there's certainly the way that technology is moving on. In our lifetime, it's been huge. And I think that pace of evolving technology is only going to get quicker. So I think if we can harness that for health and safety purposes, then, who knows, we might get to a place where there's no accidents, there's no workplace accidents. Unfortunately, then chaps will be out of a job, but
well, it's not a bad place. Well, if they do, can they line it up with our retirements? I think that's what we need to do, isn't it?
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll tell our guys to keep having accidents for a few more years till I retire.
Yeah. Keep me employed,
or just super minimal. Super minimal. So
just nothing nasty. Just a
jam fingers stuff. That's fine.
I think it's been a really interesting conversation, Simon. One thing I was going to just sort of touch on very quickly was the point you made about incident numbers going up. And I've heard that so often when a new safety person comes into an organization, is actually having to help the senior leadership to understand that actually it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. If we know about stuff, we can deal with it. Actually, that's a far better place to be than traditionally, where, unless an ambulance is rocking up at the front door, they don't report it. So I think that's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah, that was certainly the case, I think, at MKM. It's difficult to prove that, though, isn't it? But actually, I know that because just talking to the guys on the shop floor, it's like, well, we've not reported stuff. Is that an accident, really? I only cut my finger. Is that really an accident? Why would I have, and there's that perception. It's like, well, no, because you might have just cut your finger this time, but you might have lost your whole hand next time. If it's looking at potential risk as well as actually what's happened.
Absolutely. Langdon's favourite subject. Yeah.
No, truly.
Yeah. Simon, I think we're probably coming up for time. It's been great to have you
Very
on.
good.
The Peter Pan of safety. He's looking a lot younger than he really is. He did promise to bring his guitar. He hasn't brought his guitar, so we'll have to get you back on so you can play some tunes.
I'll try and come up with some safety-related songs to serenade you with next time.
Yeah. But it's been great to have you on. Thanks for giving up your time to come on. And I think the thing that that I love hearing about is kind of the fun element that you've introduced into it. And I think also kind of tapping into what feels like a real family feel to the business as a whole. And you've tapped into that to then further reinforce the safety side, which is great to hear about. Yeah.
Definitely. No,
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it, guys. So thank you for the invitation.
Okay. Yeah. I've done loads of talking. You've done loads of talking. So let's, I'm going to, in the normal way, let my American friend sign.
Oh, Simon, again, we appreciate it. We've definitely enjoyed having you on the show, and look forward to hopefully taking some of these tidbits away. It's things that we talk about, so it's fantastic to hear it being applied to your organization. So, listeners, we appreciate you joining as well. And as you're going about your daily lives, as you're going to your local building supplier, remember to stay healthy and safe, and ultimately watch each other's back out there. Thanks, everyone. Hey, everyone. Really appreciate you tuning into this episode of Two Bald Guys Talking Safety. Please follow and subscribe to wherever you stream your favorite podcast, or visit us at evotix.com.
And if you want to see how follically challenged we really are, come and check us out on YouTube. If you've got value from the podcast, please go to Apple Podcasts, and in the review section of this podcast, if you could leave us a review or a rating, that would be great.
And as always, everyone, while you're going about your days and about your normal lives, stay safe out there and watch each other's back.